The young heir of Harbor City, Pablo, openly declared that he only dates month-to-month girlfriends and doesn't have feelings. Women hoping to climb the social ladder lined up from the east of the city to the west. After all, if he was in a good mood, he might reward them with a villa. If he wasn't, there was still $1 million breakup fee. People in Harbor City all laughed at me, saying I was the most aggrieved rich wife in history. But they all thought I would endure it for a lifetime. Until Pablo brought home a college girl named Nicole. The girl's looks were ordinary, yet she made him break his so-called month-to-month girlfriend curse. Pablo gave me two choices. 1. Accept an open marriage and let Nicole stand on equal footing with me. 2. Divorce him, take half of his assets, and from then on owe each other nothing. His good brothers stood by watching the show, certain that I would continue being a ninja turtle, swallowing my humiliation for money. But without hesitation, I chose the latter. In my previous life, I chose to endure, and what I got in return was Nicole pushing her luck further and further. She wouldn't allow Pablo to touch me, wouldn't allow him to give me any property. In my old age, I watched enviously as Nicole was surrounded by children and grandchildren. Even after Pablo died, his will did not mention me in a single sentence. All of his inheritance was placed under Nicole's control, guarding the title of Mrs. I lived my whole life alone, reborn for another life. I finally understood. Take the money and leave. From this life onward, I will have nothing to do with him. Chapter 1. I took the divorce agreement, read it carefully from beginning to end, and was about to sign my name. Pablo finally spoke, his tone carrying a trace of tension he himself didn't even notice. Selena, you'd better think this through. Once you sign, it'll be too late to regret it. My hand didn't stop. The pen tip drew a clean arc across the paper as I finished signing. I'll pack my things and leave right now. How could I possibly regret it? In my previous life, I also thought bringing Nicole home was just another one of his ways to get back at me. Naively, I believed that after all our years entangled together, he must have had at least some feelings for me. Ridiculous. He and Nicole had 2 children within 3 years and loved each other until old age. And I, in that house, was like an extra ornament, awkward for half a lifetime, laughed at behind my back for half a lifetime. It wasn't until my old age that I overheard him and Nicole talking in the hospital room. He said that the staged scene of catching me in bed with another man back then, the half-dressed man, was arranged by him personally. I was just tired of her and didn't want to make things too ugly, so I designed that little show. There wasn't a trace of guilt in his cloudy eyes. That way, no matter what I did afterward, I'd look completely justified. So that was it. No wonder every desperate explanation of mine was met with his cold disbelief. Because from beginning to end, he knew the truth. He didn't love me, yet he used a baseless accusation to trap me for 50 years. He could have ended it cleanly with one stroke, yet chose instead to slice me slowly to death with a dull knife. Now, lifting my eyes to look at his face, young yet still cold and heartless, I felt no love at all, only surging hatred. He stared blankly at the signed agreement, his eyes filled with shock. Outside the door, the faint rustling of eavesdropping abruptly stopped. The next second, my distinguished in-laws burst in, beaming with joy. My mother-in-law grabbed Nicole's hand, looking her up and down, clicking her tongue in praise. Oh my, young people are just better, so full of vitality. My father-in-law, who had always looked at me with cold hostility, now smiled kindly. He cast me a meaningful glance. At last, we've gotten rid of that trash occupying a toilet without producing anything. So many years, and not even an egg to show for it. Nicole lowered her head shyly, pretending to be modest. Uncle, please don't say that. I'm not that much younger than Aunt Selena. She paused, her cheeks flushing. Actually, I'm already 1 month pregnant. It's just early, so it wasn't convenient to say. I raised an eyebrow. Sure enough, still the same familiar backhanded mockery. Still the same nauseating tone. Only this time, I didn't care. All these years, to be a good wife. I worked like a dog in the family corporation during the day. At night, I still had to serve these 2 demanding living ancestors at home, just over 30, and gray hairs had already appeared at my temples. Yes, I did look older. I turned and went back to the room, starting to pack my pitiful belongings. In my mind, I was already calculating where I should go first to properly relax once I got the money. I didn't notice Pablo following me in. It's so late. There's no need to move out right away. Leave tomorrow. Isn't the villa in the west of the city still empty? Stay there first. I'll visit you when I have time. Selena, I know you love me. Don't be angry with me. As if remembering something, he smiled indulgently. But I really can't give you the title anymore. I can't let my child be born with the stigma of being illegitimate. I didn't respond. I simply picked up my suitcase, brushed past him, and walked straight toward the door. There's nothing left for me to say to you. I'm happy we're getting divorced. If you still have even a bit of conscience, hurry up and pay what you owe me. The night wind, carrying fine snow, rushed against my face, piercingly cold, yet it couldn't extinguish the fire in my heart that was burning ever hotter. Chapter 2. Pablo's efficiency was, as always, extremely high. When I woke up, $3 billion had already been transferred into my bank account. The first thing I did with the money was book the most luxurious private club in Harbor City. Hairstyling, full-body SPA, the whole package. The haggard woman with pale temples and a sallow face in the mirror was gone. In her place stood a beauty with flamboyant red hair and sharp eyes. I had just finished changing when my best friend Ava called. She started screaming before I could even speak. Selena, what's going on between you and Pablo? Are you crazy? Has the whole world gone crazy? I held the phone away from my ear and asked lazily. What? What do you mean what? Don't you read the news yourself? Ava's voice was filled with disbelief. The headlines are all photos of Pablo attending a banquet with that mistress. He told all the reporters in public that that bitch is his only wife. He even said he's going to hold a wedding immediately. Your snobbish in-laws were standing right there saying she deserves it. Her voice lowered, filled with cautious concern. Girl, are you okay? All the public acknowledgement I never received. All the recognition I had longed for half my life. Pablo had now given all of it to someone else. I'm fine, admiring my brand new look. I replied calmly. We're already divorced. Divorced? Ava didn't believe it. She had watched me love Pablo for more than 10 years. She had watched me compromise myself for this marriage. Give up who I was. Wagging my tail like a dog begging for affection. I didn't explain further, only let out a light laugh. Free tonight? Let's grab drinks. My treat. At the most extravagant bar in Harbor City, the table was stacked with the most expensive ace of spades champagne. Several young and handsome male models surrounded me, attentively pouring my drinks. Ava stared at me. Holy shit, I believe it now. You've really let go. You were never like this before. The old me, in order to prove to Pablo that I wasn't after his money, calculated cost performance for every purchase. I was terrified he'd think I was wasteful and irresponsible. Now, sitting in a luxurious private room, I looked at the woman reflected in the glass. The flamboyant red hair, the perfectly tailored haute couture dress, both strange and familiar. Ava raised her glass and clinked it hard against mine. You look like the once-in-a-century genius campus queen of a university's finance department again. She gulped down a large mouthful of wine, indignant on my behalf. Back then, so many venture capital firms were fighting over you. If you had started your own company, you would have crushed Pablo's family business under your feet long ago. You worked like a dog for his family for over 10 years. And this is all you get in the divorce. Girl, I really feel it's unfair for you. More than 10 years. In my previous life, Pablo's company, under my management, once ranked as the strongest enterprise in the nation. Yet in my old age, I couldn't even afford a box of painkillers. In the end, I was thrown out by Nicole's so-called filial children and died sick beside a trash heap on a winter night. The business empire I built with my entire life became a wedding dress for Nicole and her children. Thinking of that, I downed the wine in one gulp. The burning liquid scorched my throat, but it ignited the fire in my heart. Let them all watch carefully. Without me, Selena, can they still live so well? Chapter 3. The next day, news of my company registration spread like wildfire, and the circles stirred at once. Some smelled opportunity and rushed overnight with proposals, eager to invest. But more people, watching Pablo's family's reaction, mocked and waited to see. Someone clearly gave instructions behind the scenes. Paparazzi articles were all belittling me for overestimating myself. I looked at the notifications on my phone and scrolled past expressionlessly. I just didn't expect to receive a call from Pablo. Selena, stop messing around. Starting a company isn't child's play. That little bit of money won't last you long. I haven't removed your position in the company. Come back. I rejected him coldly. No need for your concern. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. He seemed displeased but still spoke patiently. Selena, can't you be a little understanding? I just met true love. Besides, instead of starting some small broken company, isn't it better to stay in our company? That South City acquisition project you were following up on. I hung up directly. Of course. He just remembered the usefulness of his tool again. That South City project, I spent half a year on it, drinking until I had stomach ulcers before finally cracking it. Without me, they wouldn't even know where to start. In the company, although I was the president, my monthly salary was only $3,000. Because my distinguished father-in-law said we were family, no need to be so calculative. I once naively thought it was his test for me. Now it seemed I was nothing more than a highly capable yet incredibly cheap labor they recruited. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I made up my mind. In my previous life, all the projects I secured for their company. In this life, even if my new company can't swallow them whole, I will personally deliver them into the mouths of their sworn enemies. Chapter 4. After having his call hung up on, Pablo smashed his phone to the ground in anger. All these years, he had grown used to my obedience, coming when called, leaving when dismissed. Now that I had hung up on him so decisively, he couldn't save face. At that moment, his special assistant walked in awkwardly, holding a stack of documents he couldn't understand at all, asking him to sign them. Days of exhaustion, plus years of unfamiliarity with company affairs, had left him completely overwhelmed. Nicole followed him in, held Pablo's hand, and said with eyes full of concern, Pablo, don't overwork yourself. I'm your wife now. Let me join the company and help you share the burden. He hesitated. You're still young and not familiar with the company's operations. Go rotate through the departments first. Nicole's eyes reddened in grievance as she questioned him. If Selena could be the president, why can't I? Pablo subconsciously wanted to say that Selena was at least a top student from a university's finance department. But the moment he met Nicole's tearful eyes, all his reason was thrown aside. His heart softened, and he nodded in agreement. Nicole burst into tears of joy, hugged him, and said affectionately, I just feel bad for you. Look at you, you've lost weight recently. Less than half a month after my company was established, it was already on track. During this time, Nicole had sent people more than once to cause trouble. Nothing more than petty tricks that couldn't be brought into the open. I resolved them all lightly. Having been in Harbor City for so many years, the network I built was far beyond what a little girl like her could compare to. Several senior employees from Pablo's company, whom I personally trained, had long been tempted after hearing I started my own business. After all, once Nicole parachuted into the company, she constantly suppressed them. Life there had become suffocating. I didn't rush to bring them over. I only asked them to create a bit of trouble before leaving, consider it their pledge of allegiance. Nicole thought a few departures were insignificant and even secretly rejoiced at clearing out the remnants of the ex. But she didn't understand that when certain people leave, they take the company's main artery with them. Projects fell through one after another, and the company's stock price kept plummeting. On my side, however, with strong troops and capable generals, the team unleashed astonishing combat power, securing several multi-million-dollar deals in succession. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows of the conference room, looking at the cheering team below, I announced loudly, tonight at Highway Club, it's on me. We drink until we drop. Boss is awesome. Amid thunderous cheers, I led everyone out of the company building in grand fashion. At the entrance, a familiar black Rolls-Royce Phantom was quietly parked by the roadside. The car door opened. Pablo stepped out with a proud expression and beckoned at me. Without glancing at him, I continued forward with my team. His special assistant blocked my way. Pablo followed, his face filled with undisguised dissatisfaction and anger. Selena, what do you mean? Didn't you see me? You've really grown some nerve. I looked at him coldly, somewhat impatient. Do you need something? He choked on my attitude but went straight to the point. Ordering. Shut down your little company and come back to mine. I was so exasperated by his self-righteousness that I laughed. He, however, took my laughter as hesitation, and his tone softened a little. Selena, I've really been exhausted lately. Can you stop being mad at me? He paused, as if making a tremendous concession. If you really mind Nicole, I can have her move somewhere else first. Looking at this self-righteous man in front of me, I truly questioned my past judgment. I'm not being mad. I interrupted him coldly. Pablo, we are already divorced. Please don't disturb my life again. His patience ran out, and his voice suddenly rose. I've already made concessions. What else do you want? The company needs you right now. Do you really have to put on airs at a time like this? I suddenly felt there was no reasoning with him. In his world, did everyone have to revolve around him? If you have problems, go find your good wife Nicole. I'm just an outsider. I have no obligation to clean up your mess. He suddenly seemed enlightened, a flicker of realization crossing his eyes. You care about status? Selena, after Nicole gives birth to the child, I'll consider it, but you have to promise me. It can't be made public. I don't want Nicole to be upset. I stared at him and said word by word. I'll say it again. Get lost. Don't let me see you again. I don't want to remarry you. Not in this lifetime. Pablo's face twisted with rage. Selena, don't be ungrateful. Don't forget this is Harbor City. If I want to crush a low-tier company like yours, it's as easy as flipping my hand. At that moment, a clear yet slightly lazy male voice cut in. Oh, Mr. Pablo sure talks big. Not only publicly harassing my fiancé, but also threatening to destroy her company? Pablo turned his head, and the expression on his face nearly faltered. Oliver, another wealthy young master of Harbor City, and Pablo's lifelong rival. He strolled over lazily and familiarly wrapped an arm around my waist, resting his head affectionately on my shoulder. He said in a coquettish tone, Darling, I've been waiting for you in the parking lot forever. Turns out you were here being barked at by a dog. Pablo trembled with fury and pointed at me. Selena, you owe me an explanation. Why did you betray me? Then, as if figuring something out, he revealed a self-satisfied look. I get it. You're putting on a show, aren't you? You deliberately brought Oliver here to provoke me. Oliver rolled his eyes exaggeratedly and pulled me away. Don't talk to idiots. It wastes time and lowers your IQ. Stop right there. Pablo tried to chase after us, but he was too emotionally agitated. And with his recent irregular schedule, a sharp stabbing pain suddenly shot through his abdomen in his fury. Ah! He bent over in pain, clutching his stomach, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Selena, my stomach hurts. I didn't slow down. In fact, I walked even faster, not even turning my head once. Behind me were his suppressed groans and his assistant's panicked screams. Oliver didn't give me a chance to change my mind. He directly shoved me into the passenger seat of his flashy red Ferrari. The sports car roared out of the parking lot. Only then did he take off his sunglasses and glance at me from the side, his eyes full of amusement. So, my acting wasn't bad, right? I said nothing, just looked at the rapidly retreating street scenery outside the window. Hey, Selena, don't be such a killjoy. He nudged me lightly with his elbow. At least I helped you out. You can't even give me a proper thank you? Thanks. Short and simple. He curled his lips, seemingly dissatisfied with my indifference. But he didn't say anything more, only turned up the car stereo a little louder. That very night, the financial and entertainment headlines of Harbor City were all dominated by Pablo. Hashtag group president suspected of being stimulated while trying to win back old love. Suffers gastric spasm on the street and is rushed to hospital. Hashtag. The news photo showed him being escorted into an ambulance by his assistant and bodyguards. The comments section exploded. Some mocked Pablo for bringing it upon himself when he flaunted his mistress so publicly. He should have anticipated this day. Others said that because Nicole was inferior to me, Pablo turned back, and that the two of us would remarry soon. Chapter 5. Harbor City First Hospital, VIP Ward. With bloodshot eyes, Nicole smashed the glass water cup on the bedside table to the ground. Shards scattered everywhere. Why did you go to see her? Why? Didn't you promise that I alone would be enough? She glared at Pablo on the hospital bed, his face pale, like a furious young beast. Startled by the sharp sound of shattering glass, Pablo felt his heart jolt, and a dull pain throbbed in his abdomen. He rubbed his temples wearily, finding it exhausting even to open his eyes. His voice was faint, thick with irritation. "What are you yelling about? I went to see her for company matters." "The company? Is the company more important than me?" Nicole rushed to the bedside in a few strides, her eyes filled with obsessive possessiveness. "I don't care. Swear right now that you'll never see Selena again. Never." Her scorching breath fell on his face, carrying a suffocating pressure. Irritated, Pablo shoved her away. "Shut up." His voice rose sharply, tinged with hysteria. "If you hadn't messed the company up, would I need to lower myself to go ask her?" Nicole wanted to retort. The ward door was pushed open. Pablo's mother walked in carrying a thermos. Seeing the mess on the floor and her son's pale face, anger flared instantly. "Nicole, you're getting more and more outrageous." She slammed the thermos heavily onto the table and pointed at Nicole's nose. "Can't you see Pablo isn't feeling well? Yelling here, what are your intentions?" The more she spoke, the angrier she became. If Selena were here, she would have gone home to make chicken soup for Pablo already. Would she act like you, only knowing how to throw a tantrum here? Selena, always her." Nicole exploded instantly and snorted coldly. "I'm not her. I refuse to do that nanny's work." She crossed her arms and lifted her chin defiantly. "What do you mean? There are plenty of servants at home. You expect me to cook personally? I think you're just picking on me on purpose, using her to belittle me. I'm carrying your eldest grandson. Don't you want him anymore? How dare you talk back?" Pablo's mother trembled with rage. "What have you ever done for Pablo, besides spending money and causing trouble? What else can you do?" "How am I causing trouble? Both of you get out." A sharp roar instantly drowned out all the arguing. Pablo forced himself upright, grabbed the pillow from the bedside, and hurled it at them with all his strength. "Get out! All of you, get out!" The ward fell into dead silence. Pablo's mother and Nicole both froze. Pablo collapsed back onto the bed, burying his face in the quilt. Muffled sobs seeped out. For the first time, he regretted it. He regretted divorcing Selena. When Selena was there, nothing ever went wrong at the company, and the house was always in perfect order. She arranged everything properly, and all he needed to do was be the lofty president. But now, because of a few incompetent relatives Nicole had shoved into the company, problems kept arising, and several projects had already been flagged red. By the time he realized something was wrong, most of the capable core members in the company had already left, and the parents who once praised Nicole so highly had turned into people who now constantly voiced complaints and dissatisfaction. Life seemed to have returned to a few years ago, when his company was on the brink of bankruptcy, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Only back then, when he turned around, he could see Selena. She would gently tell him, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." But now, behind him, there was no one. Chapter 6. A few days later, the contract with Oliver was officially signed. This was the biggest deal I had secured since the divorce. It meant that my small company had finally gained a firm foothold in Hong Kong. Oliver attended in person. After signing, he tossed the pen aside and smiled at me brightly. "Selena, to celebrate our pleasant cooperation, dinner together?" I looked at his handsome face and politely declined. "No, I have something to take care of tonight." His smile faded slightly. He leaned forward, bracing both hands on the table, staring at me intently. "Selena, how long are you going to keep running? I don't believe you don't understand what I mean." Ever since that day in the parking lot when he helped me out, Oliver had launched a fierce pursuit. Flowers, gifts, endless invitations, so passionate that it was impossible to ignore. But I had always responded coldly. I frowned. "Mr. Oliver, if you're just trying to provoke Pablo, there's really no need to waste your effort on me." Oliver's eyes sparkled like stars being lit. He suddenly laughed, with a hint of childish pride. "I'm not that bored. I've really taken a liking to you." His gaze was too scorching. I subconsciously tried to step back, but he grabbed my sleeve. Oliver's fingers were long, warm to the touch. He gently shook my arm, softening his voice. full of coquettish pleading. Come on, just give me some face and have dinner with me. He winked playfully at me and lowered his voice. I'll tell you a secret about Pablo. The refusal that had reached my lips somehow changed tone. Fine. A loud bang shook us both. The receptionist hurried after him anxiously. Selena. I'm sorry. This gentleman insisted on barging in. We couldn't stop him. I waved my hand, signaling her to leave. My gaze moved past her and landed on the uninvited guests at the door. The one leading them sat in a wheelchair. It was Pablo, just a few days apart, and he looked as though all his vitality had been drained away, his face sallow. Eye sockets sunken. Selena, I'm here to take you home. I looked at him. There wasn't a ripple in my heart, only impatience at being interrupted at work. I reached out and pressed the intercom button on my desk. Security? Please escort all unrelated individuals who slipped past the front desk out. Pablo's body stiffened. He probably hadn't expected me to be so merciless. His eyes instantly reddened. Selena, how can you treat me like this? These past few days I've figured it out. We're the most suitable for each other. As for Nicole, I've already asked her for a divorce. Come back to me, okay? If it were my previous life, seeing him show weakness like this, I probably would have softened long ago. But now, I only found it noisy. I don't have any feelings left for you. My voice was cold as ice. Who you marry or divorce has nothing to do with me. From now on, don't disturb my life again. I don't have the habit of being someone's beast of burden. The finality in my words left him looking wounded. After so many years of marriage, was it all fake? You won't even give me one chance? He looked at me in disbelief, until he confirmed that there was nothing but indifference in my eyes. He finally understood I wasn't speaking out of anger. The tears in his eyes faded, replaced by a ruthless desperation, like someone driven into a corner. Selena, don't forget, if I hadn't supported you back then, you wouldn't even have been able to go to college. Now that your wings are strong, this is how you treat me. I don't want much, just help me keep the company afloat for 5 years, okay? In the end, he pulled out this trump card, the so-called favor card that had weighed on me for 10 whole years. I fell silent. At the very moment I hesitated, a warm hand covered the back of mine. Oliver had come to stand beside me at some point. Pablo, do you have any shame left? His voice was clear, laced with undisguised contempt. Claiming someone else's credit to blackmail her, you're shameless to the extreme. Pablo's expression changed drastically. Oliver? Why are you here? Oliver let out a cold laugh, his aura fully unleashed. Why can't I be here? If I weren't, I wouldn't have known that you, young master, have been impersonating me all this time, using my kindness to threaten the woman I love. You're talking nonsense. Shut up! Pablo shrieked, fierce in tone but weak at heart. The one who funded her was obviously me. Was it? Oliver scrolled through his phone and held it out in front of me. Selena, see for yourself. These are all the records of the transfers I made through an anonymous charity to your account from high school through college. The one who supported you was always me. My mind buzzed loudly, going completely blank. On the screen, every transfer record was clearly displayed. The dates, the amounts, each and every one matched exactly the scholarships I had received back then. The receiving account was my high school financial aid fund account. Designated beneficiary, Selena. In both my past life and this one, I had always believed it was Pablo. In my freshman year, he had approached me on his own, telling me he was the anonymous sponsor. Because of that gratitude, I had felt indebted to him. After graduation, I entered his company without hesitation. It was also because of that gratitude that I developed feelings for him. Even when he trampled on my dignity countless times, I endured it because of that supposed favor. I thought I owed him. In the end, from the very beginning, it had all been a lie. Pablo stiffened his neck, making one last desperate attempt. I stayed by your side all 4 years of college. Encouraged you, doesn't that count as emotional support? He changed tactics again, playing the emotional card. Even without money, we were husband and wife for 10 years. Isn't that bond enough for you to help me once? Have you forgotten how much you used to love me? I promise you, I won't hold your past affair against you anymore. You forgive me this once too. From now on, we'll live well together, okay? I almost laughed in anger. Even at this point, he was still trying to emotionally blackmail me with his twisted logic. Pablo, do you really take me for a fool? My voice wasn't loud, yet it froze the air in the entire conference room. After I sobered up that year, the man in the bed was someone you arranged, wasn't he? Even the glass of drugged water I drank was prepared by you personally. Pablo's face turned pale as paper in an instant. I shook my head in disappointment. The very last trace of sentiment in my heart crumbled into ashes. The thing I regret most in this life is being with a man like you, someone whose mouth is full of lies. That sentence became the final straw that broke him. He slumped in the wheelchair, tears rolling down in heavy drops. No, that's not it. That's not how it was. He muttered to himself, almost deranged. How can you regret it? You loved me. You clearly loved me. At that moment, the security guards who had arrived late finally broke through the line of black-suited bodyguards. They pushed him and the wheelchair out of the company along with the rest of his entourage. The world was finally quiet again. In the conference room, only Oliver and I remained. The atmosphere was so awkward it felt tangible. He avoided my gaze, staring at the patterns on the carpet. Well, I still have something to handle at my company. I'll get going. After saying that, he turned, clearly intending to slip away. Wait, I grabbed his wrist. Weren't we going to have dinner? He reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, slightly annoyed. I wasn't trying to use that to pressure you. Don't misunderstand. If you don't like me, then you don't have to feel obligated to be with me just because I funded you. Looking at his awkward yet prideful expression, the gloom in my heart vanished. I couldn't help but laugh softly. That won't happen. I softened my tone, still holding his wrist, not letting go. I just really want to have a meal with you. I looked into his eyes and asked again seriously. So, Mr. Oliver, are you willing? Under my gaze, his cheeks grew redder and redder. He nodded gently. Chapter 7. To prevent Pablo from continuing to harass me, I caused a bit of trouble for several of his family's overseas projects. I didn't intend to ruin them. I just wanted to keep him busy so he wouldn't have time to bother me. But the foundation of his company's towering empire had long since been hollowed out by termites. My small move merely pushed over the first domino. The group's stock price plummeted without warning. Several major projects that were under negotiation collapsed one after another. Partners withdrew their investments, and the capital chain snapped instantly. When the wall falls, everyone gives it a push. Bills from the banks piled up like mountains. Outside his family villa, creditors gathered every day to block the gates. Nicole, once the obedient little woman who had catered to Pablo's every whim, saw the great ship beginning to sink. Without hesitation, she filed for divorce and demanded a division of Pablo's assets. The two of them created a citywide scandal. The once loving couple now faced each other in court, tearing at one another viciously, their expressions ugly beyond words. The entire harbor city was laughing at Pablo, mocking him for throwing away the watermelon to pick up a sesame seed, only to end up covered in filth. I saw all this news through push notifications on my phone while on dates with Oliver. I would glance at it briefly, then immediately lock my screen. Old people, old matters, long turned the page. What I cared about more was Oliver. Sitting across from me, our relationship slowly warmed through dinners, movies, and gallery visits. On Christmas Day, the harbor city welcomed its first snowfall of the winter. I booked the revolving restaurant at the mountain peak. Through the enormous floor-to-ceiling windows, one could overlook the brilliant lights of the entire city. Oliver wore a custom-tailored suit. Sitting quietly across from me, the glow of the snow outside reflected on his face, making him look unreal. Amid the gentle sound of violins, I went down on one knee. He froze for a moment, panic flashing in his eyes. Oliver. I looked up at him and held his cold hand. These past few months, every day with you has made me happy. I want this happiness to last a lifetime. So, would you be my boyfriend? His eyes turned red instantly. His lips trembled, unable to form a single word. At some point, the other diners had fallen silent, all watching us. After a long while, he lowered his disbelieving hand and nodded firmly. Thunderous applause erupted throughout the restaurant. I put a ring on his finger and threw myself into his arms. My phone vibrated in my pocket, but I ignored it. The person I was holding was my whole world. Only later did I find out that the notifications were the final headlines of the night. The Pablo family group officially announces bankruptcy liquidation. Nicole, former lover of the ex-CEO, suspected of commercial embezzlement and leaking confidential information, has been arrested by the police.